Good morning and half a day. The Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Thursday, June 23rd, and the time now is 9:15. I apologize for starting this budget hearing late. Notice for this budget hearing were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was given on June 13, followed by June 16. Committee will now hear Bill 276-36 COR, Committee on Rules, by the request of the I Maga'hågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act making appropriation for the operation of the executive branch of the Governor of Guam for fiscal year ending December 30th, 2023, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions relative to the Department of Public Works. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that are here this morning. We have Senator Talina Nelson, Senator Tello Tadigui, and Senator Chris Dueñas. Morning, sir. Those testifying on Bill 276-36 relative to the Department of Public Works are invited to the panel, and we have the director who will introduce his staff following the readings of the rules. Rules of this budget hearing shall be: written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. Testimony may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. But Mr. Arreola, you have more than sufficient time this morning. Those testifying will be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you're done, please remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda, which is the budget of the Department of Public Works. Personal inference as to the character or motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the budget hearing room. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from providing any oral testimony and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and you speak into the microphone. Other questions may be submitted to the committee for submission to the agency for their response. Please state your name and your title for the record. At this time, I ask the panel members from the Department of Public Works to rise and for our Sergeant Arm to please swear them in for their testimony.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Mr. Chair, under oath, you may proceed.
Thank you, Sergeant Arms. I'd like to also recognize the presence of our speaker, Speaker Therese Terlai. We will now begin to discuss the budget of the Department of Public Works. Mr. Arreola, sir, and if you could introduce your staff.
Right,
and I just ask that the staff, when they first ask you a question, reintroduce yourself and then continue on. You won't need to do it any further. Okay.
Right.
Mr.
Thank you.
Arreola.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Members of the committee, senators. My name is Vince Arreola. I am the director at the Department of Public Works. With me today is Ms. Linda Ibanez, the deputy director at the department also. We're very pleased to be here, and thank you again, members of the committee. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read my testimony into the record. On behalf of the hardworking men and women at the Department of Public Works, I am pleased to present our proposed fiscal year 2023 budget. DPW's total budget request amounts to $19.2 million, essentially the same amount as last fiscal year. In the past few years, DPW received two major funding sources that was approved for legislative appropriations for our general operational costs. The funding sources were the Territorial Educational Facilities Fund, known as TEF, and the Guam Highway Fund. As in previous fiscal years, DPW's operational costs related to bus operations will be fully funded by the TEF. With the enactment of Public Law 36-105, other divisions to include administrative services, highways, capital improvement projects, transportation maintenance, and building maintenance will be funded by the General Fund and the Guam Highway Fund. DPW is prepared to work within our given budget levels. With the additional funding coming from federal grants and programs, DPW will be quite busy with numerous projects and activities. The agency continues to be diligent in following all health and safety protocols to ensure our government offices, employees, and customers are protected to the greatest extent possible. Our statutory responsibilities include We are responsible for providing government-wide services such as daily school bus transportation service for Department of Education and private school students, maintenance for school buses, various road construction and earth-moving heavy equipment and other light vehicles, developing and maintaining Guam's roadways to include highway construction, flood mitigation, and road maintenance, managing the Government of Guam's capital improvement projects, which also entails permitting and regulating Guam's private construction activities, and maintaining GovGuam's buildings, facilities, and equipment. There are 6 divisions within the Department of Public Works: our Administrative Services Division, Building Maintenance, Bus Operations, Capital Improvement Projects, our Highway Division, and Transportation Maintenance. In terms of our operational needs, DPW's FY 2023 budget request is essentially a status quo level, which is sufficient to meet current operations based on our department's mandates. Most of DPW's operational costs are personnel costs, including overtime costs for emergency first responders, transportation and highway maintenance workers, as well as heavy equipment mechanics. We will work to utilize all funding sources available to the agency. Other operational costs include the need to purchase supplies and equipment, maintenance, road and pothole repairs, replacement of parts, tires, batteries, fuel and oil for heavy and light vehicles, and fuel for our school buses, and repairs and renovations of DPW and government buildings. In terms of our manpower needs, the staffing pattern for FY 2023 includes limited funded vacancies. At last year's budget hearing, I talked about filling as many vacancies as we could. Truthfully, it's been difficult. However, our primary concern with regard to personnel is to keep our staffing levels of our bus drivers at safe and efficient levels. Some of the programs that we are involved with, one of them is the Village Street Paving Program. DPW's request for FY 2023 Village Street Paving Program remains status quo at $2.25 million. This past year, we augmented this program with funding from the American Rescue Plan. This highly successful program involves a partnership between the department and a private contractor selected through the government bidding and procurement process. I am pleased to report that this past year, we have paved 34 streets so far, almost 90,000 linear feet at a cost of almost $7.5 million. We have identified over 50 additional streets in numerous villages that are slated for paving, totaling over 110,000 linear feet. DPW will continue to work diligently to ensure they are completed in a timely manner. With regard to our building permits section, the Building Permits and Inspection section of the Capital Improvement Projects Division is responsible for the enforcement of building codes and the review and processing of building permit applications for all public and private construction. As you may know, we are in the process of digitizing the building permit process. Unfortunately, we have a temporary pause in the procurement process of a system that would allow GovGuam to offer this much-needed process to our residents and businesses. Also, as you know, the agencies involved in the building process include ourselves, Guam Environmental Protection Agency, the Guam Fire Department, Department of Land Management, Public Health and Social Services, Department of Revenue and Tax, and the Treasurer of Guam for payments. I did forget to include in there the Department of Parks and Recs, the SHPO division. Under federal grants, DPW also receives several grants assistance funding. DPW's major grant funding is from the Federal Highway Administration. FHWA funding for FY 2023 is for the construction of primary routed roads and bridges. We project $17 million will be received for FY 2023. Roadway projects we anticipate being funded through FHWA include Route 1 Marine Drive repaving, which is currently ongoing, Route 14 Chalon-San Antonio repaving, which will start later on this summer, Route 28 Waisengsung Road reconstruction, which has just started about 2 months ago, Route 5 reconstruction and paving, that will start this summer as well, and Route 14B, the IPA Road Phase 1 reconstruction, that will start at the end of the summer as well. There's also the upgrading of certain traffic signals, road striping and marking, which we've done in Route 4. After Route 4, we'll be on Route 8 for road striping and marking, and guardrail repair and replacement throughout Route 8 and Route 4. Another DPW grant funding source is from the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration, NHTSA. We project $1.7 million will be received for FY 2023. This grant is used to fund and operate our Office of Highway Safety. This section provides educational outreach on traffic safety for impaired driving, occupant protection, speeding, distracted driving, pedestrian safety, DUI checkpoints, and the Click It or Ticket program. In our efforts to curtail speeding and improve driving, through OHS funding, we have procured 2 digital speed limit signs that will be used throughout Guam's major roadways. These large digital signs will indicate a vehicle's speed as it passes through a given road or a highway. Some of our federal grants awards that we've received over the last year include our Maintenance Assistance Program grant, our MAP grant. This is a $556,000 grant that received for the purchase of heavy equipment. With this, we were able to procure 2 utility tractors with attachments to include side boom rotary cutters, rear mowers, and flail cutters. The Energy Stabilization Fund grant, ESF, this is a $5.4 million grant that we will use for our bus operations division primarily. We plan to procure a school bus tracking system for our fleet and new school buses. Funds under this grant will also be utilized to add to our preventive maintenance of our fleet of school buses. And lastly, we have used these funds for the construction of additional school bus shelters. Under the American Rescue Plan Act, total funding of $22.05 million has been received and will be used to augment much-needed operational needs such as manpower, contractual services, purchase of equipment and supplies, and capital outlay. Some of the capital outlay to be procured under ARPA funding includes an additional utility truck, a car carrier tow truck, bus car lifts for our maintenance shop, 20 school buses, a mobile shelter container, MSHA certified bulldozer and excavator for our quarry, a semi-tractor truck, and a larger capacity water tanker. Contractual services would be utilized in our Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, MS4 program that we are launching. Our largest expense is for additional paving in our Village Streets paving program. Another federal grant award anticipated for FY 2023 is from the US EPA State Clean Diesel Dara grant program, known as Dara. This grant program will assist DPW in purchasing new school buses to comply with US EPA's fuel emission standard. Electric school buses will be highly considered in this competitive grant proposal. Under our capital improvement projects, with responsibility for overseeing the procurement and management of government construction projects, DPW is very busy managing over 30 ongoing and upcoming capital improvement projects. These are construction projects funded by a number of various federal grants to other GovGuam agencies totaling over $17 million. These projects are spread throughout the island in all the villages and involve new or reconstructed gymnasiums, ball fields, security upgrades, fencing, shore revetment and restoration projects, and parks improvements. With regard to our island-wide street lights, as you know, about 2 years ago, GPA started to change out their street lights. They switched from incandescent bulbs to LED light bulbs. Because of this, we have experienced a 30% savings in our street light utility bill. Over the last year, we have requested and had installed over 1,000 new street lights because of these savings. The billing per street light comes to about $35 a month with a one-time fee of $50 for installation from GPA. Senators, we are extremely busy at DPW with all our projects and continued maintenance to our streets and highways. Again, on behalf of the fine women and men working at the Department of Public Works, I am very pleased to present our FY 2023 budget for your review and approval. My staff and I would be most happy to discuss our proposal and to answer any questions you may have. If I may also, I didn't include it here because we basically don't plan to spend a penny with regard to this upcoming project, but it's a project that I believe I should notify this legislature and the committee. As you know, the Guam Power Authority is building their new power generator up in the Ukadu area up north. And as part of that project, the generator and its associated parts are going to be transported on Guam's roads. As far back as, I believe, 2019 in October, we met with GPA and we wrote a letter to GPA about 2.5 years ago, outlining some of our requirements of their project to transport the generator parts and associated equipment. Just last month, their contractors came to us and met with us to let us know that the equipment and the portions of the generator are arriving this August. That was very surprising to me because August is just 2 months away. So we are fast tracking this whole proposal. My message to them, and we just sent a letter to them, is that we want to see their entire transportation plan. We want to see their Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D for transporting this huge piece of equipment. As I understand, the initial batch of equipment coming in is going to take 9 trips from the Port Authority Guam to their construction site. One of the pieces of equipment is going to weigh close to about 400,000 pounds. So there's going to be special axles and trailers that they're going to have to bring in to transport this. The transport will definitely be in the evening from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We believe at the speed they're going to be going, they'll be able to do that one package at a time. We're awaiting they've got an engineering firm on board, so we're going to wait for their traffic flow plan. Their plan to shore up the bridges. There's 5, if not 6 bridges that they're going to be going over, and the traffic lights. They've got one piece which is, I believe, the main generator that's well over 22 feet tall, including it being on a lowboy trailer. We've got 14 traffic lights on that route. 10 of them that have mast arms, and 4 of them that have what's the term? That are on span wire. All of them have to be adjusted to accommodate that load. That is not going to be on DPW's dime. I expect that will be on the dime of GPA. It's their project. But I can tell you right now, we will do everything we can to make sure that our roads, our highways, and our bridges are protected from this one-time transport project. I do, in talking with them, I do recall that this is their first movement of equipment in August. If I recall, they have another one coming up in either March or April of next year. But either way, we will be as diligent as possible to make sure that everything is done to protect our roadways, our utilities underground, and our bridges. I didn't mention that in here, but I did want to bring that up to the attention of you senators. Thank you very much. We're available for questions.
Thank you, Vince, for the update. One issue I've just noticed, you mentioned on page 2, Vidas Street, correction, let me see, deals with the guardrails. You have that on page 3, on federal grants assistance, non-appropriate. I'm concerned about, as motorists are traveling on the road and then they get in accidents, they run into the rails. Is there any compensation received from the insurance, and why does it take so long? And this is brought to my attention by many of the constituents. The rails have been damaged for many years. This is before your time at DPW, from previous directors. The rails take forever to be repaired. If they're being paid already by insurance or by the motorists themselves, why does it take so long to get them replaced?
I can't put a number on it, Senator, but I have to imagine well below 50% is probably claim from insurance. And that could be any number of factors. It could be a hit and run, the car doesn't have insurance, probably doesn't have registration, drunk driving, which is not covered by most, if not all, insurances. But we try our best to make claims against insurance companies, and we have received some. I can tell you right now, though, that as part of our federal funding from FHWA, we have an IDIQ contract that's out there for with a private company to replace guardrails at different areas throughout the island. And their biggest issue, we awarded the contract with them. Their biggest issue is they can't get guardrails. It's one of these production issues in the mainland USA that came as a result of COVID. The two of the three biggest supply issues that we're having issues with is guardrails, traffic markers, and pellets for road paint, and that's coming from the private contractors that we have on board. But you know, in terms of your specific question with regard to guardrails, we are doing everything we can to make sure that if they are damaged by a car accident, there was just one about 2 days ago, where actually even OSHA was involved. It was a commercial company that ran into the guardrail. We have all the information to make adequate claims for that.
Okay. Next one is that in relation to still the guardrails, is there any way where the guardrails can be made where there's heavy-duty rubber padding on it so that when folks run into it, they don't, you know, there's a means to reduce the impact. Mm-hmm. Maybe a lot of people don't realize that when you run into metal or concrete, it's gone. Yeah, it's quick. It's less
gone.
than a second, and it's hard. But when it's rubberized, it's no different like what they have in the mainland, where you can run off the freeway and you run into a bunch of barrels and stuff. Then you know the chance of you surviving is higher.
A little bit better.
And I'm just concerned because not only that, adding rubber to the rails, but also there are some areas on the island, and you've probably seen it, and you're probably trying to figure out how to fund it, but there may be some areas that need rails. I mean, when you build the bus stop shelters, for example, maybe they need to put rails around it, and I just need to know, or we need to know what we can do to help you, because that doesn't come for free.
Right.
And it's about protecting our children, it's protecting the motorists on the roads. And then on another note, also, you mentioned the road paving or road marking. You know, when it rains hard enough on Guam, we can't even see the markers.
Correct.
And many people, I've noticed it, and you know, I got a nice, decent truck. I'm normally trying to get off the road because people can't see the lanes so well. So I'm just concerned is that what needs to be done to be able to make it more visible? I mean, you can only paint it so white that you can see it, but when the water gets so thick, it's...
I think especially for rain, I mean, even with as much striping as you have, it helps a little bit, but the main material that really helps in driving at night during the rain are going to be the reflector markers. And even that, internally with local funds, we're having a hard time to procure because it's just not available. So we have to wait for production to ramp up, and it's a nationwide thing. But we'll certainly we have the funds for it. Once they're available and the vendor has those available, we will procure them. With regard to your rubber barriers, we'll certainly put that into our designs moving forward, because you are correct. I know we had them in some areas, like in the the overpass. I think they were there in the beginning, and after 2 accidents, they were damaged and it was never replaced. So we have to do a better job of getting them replaced.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Arreola. I'd like to also recognize one of my colleagues have joined us, Senator Joanne Brown. And your oversight chair is Senator Nelson, and she asked that if you have any questions, I'll leave her for last. Senator Tello, since you were here first, ma'am, do you have any questions? You'll be followed by the speaker.
Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity. And good morning to my colleagues that are here today, as well as to DPW. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you do at the agencies. And please extend my danklusi to all your employees there, the bus drivers, everyone, your engineers. They are very greatly appreciated. So with regards to the ARP funding that you spoke about earlier, and you mentioned, some of the things that you're planning to use the funds for. I've noticed that as of the end of May, you've only spent, of the $22 million that was given to you, you've only spent $4,563,208, leaving a balance of about $17,486,792. That's quite a bit. I mean, we received this money since last year. Just wondering what is the delay in utilizing this funding?
Okay. Thank you, Senator. Actually, to be clear, what I meant actually was we've spent hang on. From the American Rescue Plan, we've spent close to $7 million on village streets. We spent close to $3 million on manpower. We will spend about $3.5, if not $4 million on school buses. We plan to buy 20 new school buses. We're going to use ARP funding and some Dara funding for that as well. Heavy equipment, capital outlay, we're going to use quite a bit of money for that. And so in the end, basically the entire 22 million is going to be spoken for.
Yes, Vince, but how much of that will be spent on village streets? Because we know that the infrastructure bill that you'll receive approximately, $35 million for the next 5 years. Is that correct? Are my numbers off on that?
That's on the federal side.
On the federal side, for regular routed roads.
Yes, ma'am.
That money is taken care of, but my concern are the village streets. We've come, and ARP funding can cover these streets because, one, the access of ambulances getting to homes, the access of school buses getting to certain homes in areas. I remember the Gilbaza road that, some funding was set aside for that because the buses could not go in and these children had to walk half a mile in mud and it was trash was on the side. It was so bad. And it was saying that the buses can't get in there. So that was built, it was done. We recognized some funding and thanks to DPW, they were able to use their own employees as well as their equipment to make that happen. So this funding from ARP funding could be used for these village streets because I don't know where else other than, the highway fund we're going to get this money. And if I'm not mistaken, can you update us on the comment? It's $1 million a mile. I mean, that was a while ago since that amount came, but you're only going to spend, of the $22 million, you're only going to spend $7 million for village streets? Is that correct?
Well, we've spent that already. We'll spend another $5 million this coming fiscal year, in addition to the $2 million appropriation for the village street program. So that's another $7 million that we'll be putting into village streets this coming fiscal year.
FY23.
23.
And that money is going to come from the ARP funding.
Yes.
So you spent $7 million already, okay, for the village streets that you have, and then you're going to spend another seven
to include the $2 million from the there's a
Guam Highway
right
Fund.
Yeah.
Total. Okay. But you gave us a report on village streets, if I'm not mistaken, during the Committee of the Whole, that in order to do this master plan for village streets, it's going to cost about $700 million plus.
Senator, that's a plan I saw that I believe was dated back in 2014. That includes every single road. There's about 700 miles of roads here in Guam, and that was some plan I saw when I first came in.
So it must be even more now. That was 2014.
Sure. Yeah.
I can imagine the cost of it today's time, how much that's going to be, even if you weren't to cover every single street.
Right.
But are there areas in which it's very difficult for, ambulances to get through, school buses to get through? Have you identified those village streets or those streets that are in desperate need of a road?
We've worked with every single mayor, Senator.
Uh-huh.
They come to us. They know their villages better than we do. Mm-hmm. And we go out there and we travel the roads with them. We look at them. We look at the access for school buses, for emergency equipment, for the number of houses that are in there. Mm-hmm. We rate the roads based on their condition, for safety issues and also on cost. In a perfect world, if you gave us an appropriation for $700 million, we would pave every road we could.
Yeah,
so what we have to do at this point in time is we have to prioritize the roads that are out there based on condition, safety, utilization, traffic, and so on and so forth, and the mayor's suggestions. And then we go out there and we pave the road.
So my next question is...
And we have to spread it throughout all the 19 villages.
Okay, thank you. And my next question is, have you updated that plan? Have you met with the mayors? Because if I'm not mistaken, it was the mayors that created this plan with DPW way back then. So what have you done to update that plan?
We haven't updated that plan, Senator. Right now we are in action mode. We are out there paving. I'm not going to say I don't have time to update that plan, but we are in action mode and we're paving as much as we can. Because the more we wait to sit down and figure out a plan, prices go up. Every single month that we wait, prices go up. So I need to get on the ball and pave as much as we can. And the other part is we only have one paving contractor. He is very, very busy inside the base. So whenever we can get that contractor to come out and pave our routed roads and our village streets, it's a balancing act.
Well, I think a plan would also be a good start, to put something together and recognize these emergency. Prior year obligations, prior to DPW submission of the report received by the Speaker's office on May 23rd, 2022, summarizing prior year obligation payments, as of March 31st, 2022, DPW required $966,753 to pay for detailed assignments, past due merit bonus awards, and for appeal cases resulting in the Competitive Wage Act of 2014. Are any of your outstanding obligations subject to penalties? And if so, does the nearly $1 million figure including funding additional payments?
No.
The answer is no?
No.
And you have no prior year obligations?
The only ones we have are the merit bonuses, right? Merit.
And what is that amount? The merit bonuses, that's the only one you have?
I think we've liquidated everything else over the past couple.
What about the retirement contributions?
None.
None? You're all up to date on that?
It's just the merit bonuses from previous years.
Have you considered the, retirement as well as Medicaid contributions, so you've cleared that. Okay. I was looking at your list. It's actually the Ray Aguilar, DPW's FY23 budget request recognizes a total of $3,266.18, inclusive of retirement and Medicare contributions, a contribution as the amount due to the employee. However, in May 23rd, 2022, report indicates $2,359.78 of the $2,886 that's owed was paid to the employee as March 31st this year. So why is there a $379 difference in the amount owed to the employee? And this is under Ray Aguilar. There's also an issue with Antonio Bernardes as well, with a difference of $514.96 difference. This is in your budget submission. So there's some contradictions here in those particular issues, and I'd ask that you look that over and make those adjustments, because the numbers are not adding up with those particular employees on obligations that are paid to them, okay?
Will do.
Vince?
Thank you, Senator.
Also, with regards to infrastructure, we talked about earlier, is that right? 35 million for the next 5 years for the Infrastructure Investment Act that you plan on receiving? And what other options are you taking with other infrastructure grants that are out there? There's, I think, the $1.2 billion grant opportunity for roads, et cetera, that to try and push for not just routed roads, but village roads, village street roads. What are your efforts? I know you're trying to be friends with Tyrone Titano because he's supposed to be the guru over there. So what efforts have you made? Is there something that we can look for that looks good right now?
Yeah, Senator, the grants that are available for roads are primarily for routed roads. What we are looking at, though, that could assist in our shorelines are a lot of flood projects. Those are going to be some of the grants that we're going after, where you have shoreline degradation. We'll be going after grants for that. Seawalls, one of the big, and we're working with the Army Corps of Engineers, US EPA, Bureau of Reclamation. There's so many federal agencies out there that have funding that we are going after. The only thing, like I mentioned, is their grants don't really touch village streets. They touch the routed roads and flood issues. And we do have a lot of flood issues out there that we have to go out there and mitigate and do some repair work, because Mother Nature has not been kind to us over the last 20 years. And so we're going to need grant funding for a lot of that.
Thank you, Vince, and I appreciate keeping on top of that. I don't want to lose out. The money is not falling like it's going to be easy access to get funding anymore. Yeah, it's competitive moving forward. With regards to the buses and the fuel costs, have you taken in consideration with the rising cost of fuel that you've adjusted for your fuel
Yes,
allowance?
Yes, if you'll see in the budget, I think we stayed status quo. At the time we submitted the budget, we stayed status quo under buses. Under HMC, our highways, I think we've got a 30, if not a 40% increase. But we'll make the adjustment because we are experiencing a high, with the rise of fuel. We're experiencing a higher expense in fuel costs this present fiscal year.
Okay, and with regarding your reserves in FY21, your funding was set aside in reserves from your Guam Highway as well as your Guam Educational Fund, close to about $3 million that was set aside in FY21. Did you receive all that funding back?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you know that the same amount is also in reserves for FY22.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, other than that, I appreciate your time in answering my questions, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Senator. Appreciate your support.
Thank you, Senator Tyree. Madam Speaker, do you have any questions? And you'll be followed by Senator Duenas.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Director and Deputy Director, for your presentation today.
Good morning, Speaker.
Good morning. I just want to confirm some things on the roads. So we did get the report. So the last budget required that a monthly report for the village streets paving be submitted. So the last one I could find was February 2022. But on this list, I see some routed roads. For example, Route 12, there are many. So I just wanted to know, why are we using the village streets funds on the routed roads?
There are some roads that we decided to pave because, to be frank, to pave routed roads takes anywhere from 2 to 3 years. The process just takes a long time. Some of these, and so what we're doing is we're doing a quick fix, if you will, using the village street paving program, so that we can complete the design, the EPA issues, rights-of-way issues, agricultural issues, whatever issues that come up and have to be addressed before we start paving any of our routed roads. Quick example, we did Route 9 in the back road. We understand we're going to be getting federal funding from DOD to pave that road. That's the end of Route 3 all the way to the back gate of Anderson. That's a really, really bad road. That project's probably going to take 3, if not 4 years. That's just the way the federally funded road program works. But there are 2 stretches that we decided because of safety concerns and a lot of complaints from the residents. We went in there and we used the village street funding to pave that road temporarily. It was a quick mill and fix. And in the meantime, we'll do the design and reconfigure that entire strip of road.
All right, so then so you used the 2.25 million that was appropriated last year, plus some ARP money.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, during the current fiscal year, right? And so you're going to use an additional 2.25 million and an additional 7.5 million from ARP.
About 5 to 6 million from ARP.
For the FY23?
Yes.
Okay, because you wrote, okay, so 5 plus 2, 7. I see, total. Can you give us a list of what you intend to pave in FY23?
Yes, ma'am.
That be provided, please? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just curious. So the mayors, I'm glad that they're giving you input as to which roads. I always ask them, if those are the roads that you wanted repaired. And so, yeah, it seems like yes. But sometimes other villagers ask us, how come that road's being repaired and not that road? And I always tell them, and tell me if this is correct, that because it used to be that it's up to the mayor. Mm-hmm. They tell DPW which are their 3 top priorities. Is that still correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And then, so I'd like to see the list that you plan to pave. And then, do you have any plans to increase the capacity of DPW or anyone else on Guam to do paving? You said there's only one paving contractor, and I know that for years we've been told our paving is dependent on their availability. And so what do you think about that? I mean, any plans that you can?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. But we have taken a look at it. We've researched it. It would require a lot of very, very expensive machinery and manpower and individuals to run that kind of machinery. When we first looked at it, we were looking at purchasing the machinery and then just buying the asphalt product from the vendor, right? Even that was very cost prohibitive. It was quite a bit, and so we kind of nixed that because it was just too expensive to get the type of machines that they have. The milling machine and the paving machine they're very expensive.
I would just think that we would need it forever, right? That we would need that type of capacity for our roads alone, regardless of what the military does, that we would continue to need that. And it's one of those programs I would think that, the apprenticeship program, if we have that type of infrastructure. I mean, this is our basic infrastructure, and I don't think it should be dependent on one company. That's all. Yes. So we'll follow up again. Can you just tell us very clearly what we should expect in Route 1? So I know you've got federal highway funds being put into Route 1. It says here, we anticipate being funded through Federal Highway to include Route 1 Marine Drive repaving, but you're already doing some repaving on Marine Drive. So could you just tell us what was done in FY22 versus what you expect to do in FY23? And what should the consumers expect on Route 1? Like, they're doing the manholes now? Are those going to be smooth? Are we going to allow people to dig those up? What should we expect? And have you done that road, that lane that's supposed to accommodate the heavy trucks?
Right.
Is that being done right now, or?
The design is, Speaker. So for Route 1 from, let's say, Horse and Cow, all the way to Airport Road, the paving is pretty much done. There's going to be some paving on Airport Road leading to Route 1, and then just a little turnoff at IPA Road. But for the most part, all the paving has been done. They will continue to balance out and smooth out the manholes. That one major manhole cover in front of Horse and Cow that was there was a steel plate there for like the last 40 years. That is gone. If you drive over that, it is nice and smooth. So what remains right now is striping, marking, signage, and that should really be it. Maybe another 60 days of signing, of striping and marking, and the contractor should be out of there. But what can motorists expect from future Route 1 construction? That won't happen until FY24, if not 25, and that'll be a complete reconstruction of the outer lanes from Naval Station all the way up to Camp Blas. Both outer lanes, north and south.
Naval Station.
Naval Station, the outer lanes, outside lanes, both north and south, from Naval Station all the way to Camp Blas, and Camp Blas to Naval Station, and reconstruction of bridges as well. It'll be probably Guam's largest road project ever.
FY23?
24.
All right. Yeah. You said you're having a hard time with personnel. You said, Frank, well, why is that?
Well,
hiring, you said,
Well,
hiring.
when we solicit for employment, right, and we make the announcements, we get a lot of applicants. They all come, they qualify and everything. We're ready at the hiring point, and then and this is the truth. As soon as we ask and require their police and court clearance, we never see them again. So it's a big issue.
Okay.
I guess they won't pass with their police and/or court clearance, but they do want to work. It's just that if they don't furnish us with a police and court clearance, we can't hire them within Gov Guam. So it gets up to that point, and I think I mentioned this when I was at DOA as for firefighters. When they make the announcement, they get well over 1,000 applicants. That gets whittled down to 70 or 80, just because of these different requirements that can't be met, and that's a function of
right.
the employee market out there.
Okay, so my final question is, so you talked about flood projects and shoreline
Revetments.
restoration, but those are grants, right? Those are not infrastructure funds. What about the infrastructure funds?
No, we will use some infrastructure funds on those.
So none of the infrastructure funds will be used on roads?
Come again?
The infrastructure funds, so we got ARP funds, CARES Act funds, and infrastructure funds.
Mm-hmm.
So will any of the infrastructure funds be used on village street roads?
Are you talking the federal,
Yes.
FHW? No, that's strictly for routed roads.
So you will use them on routed roads? Then,
yes.
Then again, I go back to my concern that we're using a lot of village street funds on these roads, like I'm glad you're doing it, but from Santa Rita, the Cross Island Road, those are all part of the haul network. What do they call it? The road haul network, right?
Routed roads.
Yes,
Yeah.
for the DOD. Why are we paying for those?
Route 17?
I think so, yeah. That's one of the ones
No,
listed here.
that's slated for, the design just got completed this year for Route 17. We will put that out for bid probably 2 years from now.
Is that federal highway funds?
Yes, oh yes.
So, but yes, part of Route 17 unless, I'm not seeing it correctly, is listed here in this village street funds list. That's my question.
Unless it was a little strip there.
I don't
that
know.
was- Yeah.
Okay, so that's my concern is, we've got a limited source of funds for village street roads, yet we've got a huge amount of funds for routed roads. And so I would like to see that we make sure that we use those village street funds where they need, and we cannot use any others. And that we use those infrastructure funds where we need. Can we get a list then of the projects that you intend to use the infrastructure funds for? And the ARP funds and the village street funds?
Yes, ma'am.
That would be great. And the 2.25 million appropriation in the budget bill as well. All right, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you,
thank
Mr.
you,
Chair.
Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Duenas, do you have any questions for the panel?
Titus Vasi, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Director Arreola.
Good morning. Morning, Senator.
I got to say that it's really nice to see your request being a status quo request, particularly given recent announcements of the pressures that will be placed on our general fund. So I really don't have any reason to question your budget, as in your testimony you've put forward that you'll be able to manage moving forward, providing the critical services that you do and are. So I'm going to just move to two subjects, kind of revisiting the issue of the infrastructure grant monies that have or will be arriving, and I wanted to kind of see what is the interaction, what is the role, as at least from media reports, Director Tyrone Taituno has been placed in that duty and responsibility to oversee that and implement that. How does that interface with DPW?
Okay. My understanding, let me give you an example. The US EPA, we just had a conference call with them about a month ago. They have a $5 billion competitive grant that's going to be that's released today as we speak, and it's due in August, and it's primarily for electric school buses. We will use that office to assist us in writing that grant. Upwards of 20, if not 25 electric school buses and related infrastructure, charging stations, maintenance, things like that, to help maintain electric school buses. So that's what I would use them for. That's their purpose. It's also to keep track of grants. If there's something that's out there, they will notify us and other agencies, hey, you've got to go out there and apply for this grant, or we will assist you in applying for this grant. So that's the way I read them, is that they will assist agencies such as ourselves in applying for and receiving federal grants to augment our local funds. And the word, the directive is out. Go out there and get as many federal grants as you can to augment our local funding.
Okay, Vince, so more specifically, what I'm looking for is the infrastructure grant award itself to Guam. How does that, I'm sure, or I'm thinking at least, that DPW is going to be at the forefront of whatever programs that are identified and become eligible for infrastructure improvements, capital improvements, and the like, with the decision on administering those funds coming in. So I guess my more detailed question is, how does that office now interface with DPW? Do they report to you? Are they an equal to you? Do they work out of your office? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out. I mean, maybe I'm going down the wrong road here, and you can correct me, but I would think that you're at the forefront of whatever is going to take place under that grant program. So yeah. How is that interface at this point?
Well, we definitely work together. We work hand in hand. In terms of infrastructure funding, from FHWA, my understanding is the only increase we have is for the next 5 years. We typically were getting $15.5 million. It's going to get boosted up to at a high of like $17 million per year. It's nominal, right? That's as much as we're getting from FHWA. But there are other infrastructure grants that we will be applying for, specifically for like bridges, bridge repair, strengthening of bridges, culverts, things of that nature, stormwater drains. I mentioned here we'll be launching our MS4 program. We have a permit for that for the next 6 years. We estimate that division to need about $8 million to do the work right. So that's another infrastructure project that it's a federal mandate, totally unfunded. So we've got to go out there and look for the funding.
So the vision for that would come under this recently award of $180-some million from the federal government?
Possibly.
Okay.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to get
Right.
to. I'm trying to
Right.
see, because I mean, thus far, we've been notified that, that was our award from the current administration on the federal level in terms of the statewide, territory-wide, national awards. My recollection is it's upwards of $180 million. There hasn't been really much put out in terms of that. So I'm just trying to get to, whether or not there's some progress there that we can be expecting, that's what DPW would be interfacing and saying, here are all the critical projects, and I'm just trying to see if that connection
Correct.
has already
Yeah.
been established.
You're exactly right, Senator. It's more project related as opposed to regular operations. These are big projects that we need to take care of the issues, flooding issues, drainage issues, road issues, and things of that nature.
And that's why I wanted to go down that road, because as you may know, Vince, that one of the major issues too, and I wanted to put this on the table, one of the major issues, particularly with flood mitigation, really comes down to sometimes land acquisition, because of the fact that we've built and overbuilt in certain areas and done things that have directed water in directions that now are causing, because of that these issues. And so I just wanted to put that on the table, that although this is your budget hearing, I wanted to say it because it's budget related in terms of the awards, that we need to also interface with land management and other agencies to make sure that if that's the requirement to create additional ponding basins and the like, to look at that as well.
Understand, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you. So my only other question really is going to be, I know that our esteemed Governor Gutierrez is doing a wonderful job over at the GVB, and he was originally slated to also, and may still have, the collateral duty of permit czar. And so I'm just wondering, is there somebody else in charge of that, or what's the update with regard to the emphasis that DPW is going to put on permitting and the like? Because I'm reading in the building permits section here, you're saying you're having some trouble with the upgrades of the system in terms of procurement of digitizing. Aside from that, how is the permit division operating in terms of, is it progressing
it's
and getting
moving along,
faster in
Senator.
terms of turnaround times?
Training is ongoing throughout our staff and staff in other agencies. One of the big issues that we have to sit down, and it was a directive from former Governor Carl Gutierrez, is we put a task force together to review all the statutes that govern the building permit process throughout all the different agencies, and sit down and once and for all interpret the statutes and just have one interpretation. Because I think what was happening is, depending on whose desk you were at, you would get 3, if not 4 different kinds of interpretations. And that was it was cumbersome, and it was very frustrating for the customers who had to deal with it. So just depending on who you had and what their interpretation was, it caused a lot of grief, if you will. And so what we need to do is, what we're going to do is we need to sit down and look at all the statutes and come up with one interpretation on how to read it and how to apply it. That's a big issue in and of itself. And I think once we get there, because we can do all the digitizing we want, right? We can have the best computers, but if the interpretation is incorrect, we're going to be back to square one.
Exactly. We did that at land management several years ago, and you're absolutely right. The digitization was good, but then we had to come behind it with all of the workstations and everything else to be able to acquire
Correct.
And those capabilities, and to make it efficient for the researchers and the like. So yeah, the reason why I'm going down operational road is because you've asked for a status quo budget, and I wanted to ensure that most of your projects to build in these efficiencies are administrative in nature.
Right.
And then also just wanted to see that, and get an update on the progress with regard to the overall infrastructure grant, so the people of Guam can know what to expect in the coming months and years. But as I said, I'm pleased that there really is barely any questions on your budget, because it is status quo, and you're asserting that you have the capability to accomplish
Right.
your mission.
Yeah.
And thank you for all you're doing. I mean, it's very visible to see that DPW
Thank
is
you.
busy, and I know that there's a lot of excitement and happiness on the current roads that are being worked on. So thank you for your work and the work of your team. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Seduce Masi.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. Senator Brown, do you have any questions for the panel?
How could I not, Mr. Chairman? This is DPW.
Good morning, Madam Director,
You
Senator.
know, I'm really out to lunch then if I don't. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Certainly appreciate our director for being here today. I know there's a lot of attention that has been placed on our roadways and certainly the challenges that you have in trying to keep pace. But I wanted to ask about some of the projects that have been sitting for a while that, you know, of course, it's been a number of years. We were going back and actually the design, the other issue why in some areas I'm sure you're having to use local funds is Federal Highway, and understandably so, don't want to use most of their federal money to acquire private property that these roads have been paved on. I don't think people realize sometimes how much of the existing roadway, particularly down south, you know, were paved on private property. And, you know, when it reaches a certain high percentage of land acquisition, they're a little hesitant to move forward. Hence the case with the, you know, we called it Hamburger Road. I know that you guys actually did that road project, even though there were plans and designs already in place to put 4 lanes, 2 on each side, and then have a left turning lane out to Route 1 heading down towards to Managaña. But with regards to like the SDA road, I know also that's been in plans for a number of years, the design. I know there's a lot of issues with regards to drainage. And then again, land acquisitions, particularly from an area you're very familiar with next to SDA going down to the Hilton, that particular stretch of the roadway. What is the status of that?
This is the EPAL Road?
Yes.
Route 14B.
Yeah.
We had to split it into phases because the entire project was just too much. We didn't have the federal funds for it. So we've awarded phase 1, which will go from SDA Clinic, Carmen Memorial Drive, all the way down to the intersection of the Hilton Hotel and San Vittori's Road. We've awarded the project to the contractor. That's about a close to $9 million project. And so they will actually start later on this summer for that phase 1. It'll be a 2-lane road, sidewalks. The biggest part of that road project is going to be a full concrete retaining wall on the cliffside, and there will be a sidewalk there and a railing system as well, so that, you know, pedestrians would be able to walk all the way down the beach.
I know, yeah, when we had the height of our tourism, you see a lot of tourists, unfortunately, trying to maneuver their way up or down that stretch of
Correct.
road, and there's really not a lot of space there for them.
None at
and
all.
the cars going up and down.
Yeah.
So you're going to do it in phases? Are we still looking at 2 phases, the upper part of SDA and then the second stretch at a separate time?
Right.
Has the land acquisition been completed on that project yet?
All
or
the
is this,
land acquisition has been completed, Senator, except for one, and that's going through land condemnation, unfortunately.
I've heard the recent announcement, of course, for the groundbreaking for the Route 5 down there, between, of course, your agate section there to Naval Magazine.
Correct.
Is that solely being funded by Federal Highway, or is DOD contributing to the paving of that particular road?
Yeah, unfortunately, DOD, we tried to get them to throw some funding in. We weren't successful. Our co-partners in Honolulu with FHWA tried for years and years, and they were unable to get anything from DOD. So that is a 100% FHWA funded road project.
And how much is that anticipated to cost, and what's your completion date that you guys are looking at for that road?
I'd like to say 14 mil. That's a $14 million project.
Okay. I know the speaker brought up with regards to Route 17, and I know that DPW has done significant patchwork to keep that road operational. I travel that on a fairly regular basis. I do notice the section next to the bridge in Upper Heights there where the Waterworks has a pump station that is eroding considerably, and I don't know if I'm hoping it's not water leakage. I don't know if there's a
No.
natural stream that goes through there.
It is an underground stream.
Yeah, but it's an incredible hazard. You have people getting on the opposite lane while people are coming around the curb, and, you know, we know where that can end up,
Yeah.
so.
As a matter of fact, I believe their bid just went out. They've got leftover funding from a previous project, and so they'll pay for that entire project. So their bid, I believe, just went out just recently to get that flood issue taken
In that
care of.
particular section, yeah, because I mean, you pave it and within a matter of a month or two,
Oh,
we're
no,
back.
yeah.
And it's just become not
it's-
just an inconvenience, but literally a driving hazard
Yes,
for
it
people
is.
coming around that area.
Right, and it's really just fresh water. So they're going to tap into that and take it down and let it run into the
Into the river.
Apatso
yes,
River, right?
Yes. With regards to other issues, do you currently have your own chief engineer that is a PE on staff?
We had a chief engineer. It was Zenon Bellinger. We had him for about 5 or 6 months, and then he resigned. I think we were moving a little too slow for him. Government. It was he had been in the government many years ago, but he had his own company. But he left, and so we are recruiting for a chief engineer right now.
So you currently don't have one on staff?
Right.
Then who's signing off on behalf of DPW? Who's signing off?
So it would be Lyndon Kobayashi. He's with WSP.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Federal Highway, and you're having them sign all the appropriate documents with regards to the needed
Yes, ma'am.
signatures for a PE? You don't have anyone else at the agency signing those documents?
I'm sorry?
You don't have anyone else signing those
No.
documents?
No. It would be
Okay.
him.
On the
He's
record, right?
Yes.
Okay.
PE.
I know that Senator Tello had asked about prior year obligations, so you pretty much, except for what the merit bonus
Merit.
is that the only thing that's left with regards to the employees? With regards to bus operations, I mean, I do appreciate the fact, I understand, you know, your budget, and in comparison to a number of other agencies and your fellow directors who've come in with $9-10 million requests, you're pretty much keeping your budget status quo, but at the same time, we know you have tremendous obligations for the work that you have to do. Bus operations, do you currently have enough bus drivers to accommodate all your current routes that you are designated to pick up and drop off students?
No, we don't.
How much are you short?
We had quite a number of bus drivers retire. Some just resigned because of health reasons also. As you may have read in the paper, we just had that bus, boot camp.
Yes.
So we're hoping to pick up we actually picked up 4, if not 5 already, that have been processed. So we hope to pick up quite a few more. But again, we've gone through, even the non-boot camp, we've gone through the application process. And it's just strange. We're at the 1 yard line, and when we require the police clearance and the court clearance, we don't hear from them. They disappear. So something's amiss there. But throughout the fiscal year, the recruitment for bus drivers does not stop. We are always in need of bus drivers. We thought, even as far back as 2 years ago, with the pandemic and tourism kind of dropping, we thought we would receive a lot of
From the private bus companies?
Nothing. We picked up maybe 2, you know, but
How short are you for this? I mean, you know, we're in summer right now, but obviously another month or so, kids are going to be going back to school.
Yeah, we have 99. Let's call it 100. We have 100 school bus drivers today. To be adequate, we need 120.
And how about with regards to buses? What's your busing capacity? How many buses do you have versus?
Yeah, our bus fleet is good. We've got about 130 up and running.
And they're operational?
Yes.
How about with regards to the funding needed for the maintenance and repair of the buses?
We're good with that. I think this year we even asked for a bit of an increase in terms of materials, supplies, repair, contractual work for school bus repair. I know we've got an increase there.
How about with regards to drug testing of your employees? Have you conducted any random drug testing on your designated positions?
We upped that number. If you'll see, we upped that number for drug testing. I think we went from a mere $500 to like 4,000.
Yes, I see it in
so-
your budget. I know you're upping it for this fiscal year, but when was the last time you had a random drug test of your designated employees?
Did we have it? It was just before the pandemic. Yeah, I can't recall. I think it was right when I first came in, 2019.
And you did a random drug testing of how many employees?
70? 70? 70 at the time.
And you have not done one since then?
We haven't done one since then.
Do you plan on doing it soon?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no, I leave it to you to decide, obviously. And the
Yes.
reason I bring this
But
up,
actually, yes.
you know, it's a sad reality, but, you know, as I did in my time, we ended up having bus drivers high on crystal meth driving our school kids, and that has always bothered me.
That's right.
You know, I wish it wasn't happening, but there's always a percentage. I don't know why,
Yeah, I
but it
think-
happens, and I don't want to see another incident or, you know, accident happen on the roadway, especially when the kids are on the bus, and then only to find out that the bus driver driving our children is testing positive for crystal methamphetamine.
And I think, Senator, we might want to, let me take a look at the law and discuss it with our attorney. My feeling is, I think we have to be a little bit more, I don't know if liberal is the word, but because, you know, at any given time, they're driving up to 60 children. And so I think we have to be more diligent, if you will, in making sure that when they get behind the wheel, they're of sound mind, sound body, and they're up to the job, and they can't be on any type of drug or alcohol or anything. So I'm just, you know, I know there's all kinds of processes for random drug testing, right? And I'm just saying we should be more strict with that type of a job.
Well, and I hope I don't look at it as, oh, I got you. I hope it's a deterrent. You know, maybe somebody in a position who values their job and their family, because I hear a lot about the family after the fact.
Right.
You know, they're the main breadwinner, they have a family. I appreciate all that, but they didn't think about that before they got on it while they're out there driving our kids. So I look at it as a deterrent, and you do have the authority, you know, contrary to some department directors who seem to put the shield up. You do have the authority to test designated positions, and all you
Right.
got to do is, you know, throw the names in the pot and randomly
out.
designate who you're testing that day, and follow through, because knowing that it's happening, and we have a very prevalent drug problem. I mean, that's the one thing that's going down in price on this island. You know, yeah, 400 pounds seized, but you know, we know if the prices continue to go down and the dealing is among people, even we have to look at going, wow, they're dealing drugs. Wow, really? Then it's prevalent out there in the community, and we have all these other impacts to our people as a result of the continued and growing drug problem on this island. And you know, as public officials, I think we have a greater responsibility. I have no tears to shed for anyone in that capacity that's abusing their position and not being responsible. So I hope you do implement drug testing and do it on a regular basis. I mean, you can do it.
Yes.
I know for non-designated positions, that's a separate issue unless you have evidence that may lead you to believe they may be on it. But definitely for designated positions, we have to have some comfort that our children are in safe hands, and that's not the case.
We will.
Consistently, not 100% with regards to that. I noticed on your staffing pattern, you have a number of LTAs, unclassified. This year, it indicates what number, you have 11, and yet the governor's request has 12. Who are and what are these individuals? Because, you know, again, the director, the deputy, and I see you have a private secretary. I never had a private unclassified secretary at DPW, but who are the other unclassified employees?
These are all LTAs that are basically trades helpers, laborers under our highway division. They are out there cleaning the roadways, bush cutting, picking up trash.
Why
doing
aren't
the
you hiring
roadways.
them through the proper process?
I'm sorry?
Why aren't you hiring them through the proper process? I mean, I understand they're doing important work, but why aren't they just being hired through the regular process? Because we end up having all these unclassified employees occupying classified positions.
Well, we're using, as I mentioned earlier, we're using funding from ARP for most of, not all of them. And we're bringing them in because we need them. There's a lot of work out there in our roadways, and you know, we only have a staff of, like, no, but under highways, we've got like 60, if not 70 at the most, and we've got 600-700 miles of roads out there to maintain. We're never ahead of the game. Let's put it that way. We're never ahead of the game. We're always playing catch-up.
So except for you, your deputy and your private secretary that's listed here in the staffing pattern, all these other positions are in highway maintenance?
They're all.
With regards to the maintenance of your ponding basins, I noticed that particularly on Route 17, which we simply, did a few years ago to actually do the paving on those sections, the top part of Route 17, I don't see maintenance on any of those ponding. Some of that Tangantongan's gonna be grandpa trees pretty soon.
Ponding basin and Route 17.
No, yeah, just leading at the very beginning of Route 17 in Jotnia. And also the ponding basin next to the Yelik Bridge. I mean, those things are overgrown, and those are some of your newer ponding basins that were
Right.
obviously installed as a result of the bridge
Okay.
and road construction.
Yeah, even those senators, we're just playing catch-up with all the ponding basins. We just go from one to another, and it usually takes anywhere from I'd say at the most 3 days to clear a ponding basin, because again, we can't just take it and leave the material. We have to take it out. And so it's a time-consuming process. We only have 3 excavators currently, 2 large ones and a small mini excavator. And if we're doing flood control projects, and I agree with you, a ponding basin, it's just a pet peeve of mine to see Tangan coming out of and you're right, the one by Ilig, actually we'll get that one cleaned up because we're putting we have to put a memorial there.
Yes, and that's way behind schedule. I mean,
Exactly.
that bridge was done quite
Yeah.
some time ago
So
during my
that'll
tenure,
be
and
cleaned up
I
real
don't see the
quick.
memorial,
For the, right.
yes, for our historical remains and our ancient remains that are there. So I definitely wanted to find out with regards to that. I hope and anticipate that you're going to be able to address that issue because, again, if you're not maintaining your ponding basins, you're not maintaining the drainage. Are you
Right.
maintaining drainage issues?
And it's part of our MS4 process as well. So, all the machinery that we're looking to get, that's with ARP funding or any of our grant funding, that's what that's going to be used for.
How about with regards to your chief planner? You have a chief planner on staff?
We have a chief planner on staff. His name is Joe Pep
Okay.
Kinata.
And what are his main assignments?
He does everything for us and for a lot of other agencies. Primarily, though, his function is to ensure that all the funding that we have, federal funding, for all the different projects that we have out there in all the villages, in all the parks, he moves them through. He looks them through and makes sure that they meet all the standards and all the requirements for purchasing, for contractual issues, for procurement, for construction, and things of that nature. So everything goes through him. Every single project goes through him. NEPA, EPA requirements, agricultural issues, if they arise, those snails decide to show up, we have to get through that as well.
I wanted to ask you a question because a call came to my office a couple of weeks ago with regards to a clearing that happened in one of our southern villages. And the mayor of that southern village knows because a call was made to his office with regards to a clearing. And again, it might just be perception, but there obviously was a perception from some village residents that DPW was down there clearing in one of our southern villages, and a rally was being held over that weekend on a Saturday. Are you aware of that?
Whereabouts? Yamatic?
Well,
I don't know.
well, check with your office because that call came into mine, and we also followed up with the mayor of that village who was very quick to tell us that none of his people were there doing any clearing. And I don't know if it's one of your DPW or your DPW employees that may have been on leave at the time, but the residents there know who their fellow neighbors are, and that much more probably than we would in our northern villages. And there was an allegation made that DPW employees were down there during working hours using government equipment. The mayor said it was private equipment, but they were identified as DPW employees. They may have been on leave, I don't know. But it's just that perception that a clearing was being done using official resources for an intended rally that happened about maybe 2-3 weeks ago on a Saturday.
Senator, you and I both know that cannot That will not happen.
Well,
If that happens,
you and I
I'm
know
on it.
that, and I think the public knows that, and the public has an expectation, but there's a perception out there. I mean, can I verify that? I don't know. I wasn't down there.
Yeah.
But I'm simply letting you know
Sure.
that that call did come in, and we did call and have that conversation with that southern mayor, who also claimed that he also received calls from his residents regarding that. I'm just saying there's that perception
Please-
out
please
there. And
let
I
me
think
know.
we need to make sure that if we're using official resources, that they're only being used for official purposes and not for anything else.
Absolutely.
So I'm just bringing that to your attention so that you're aware. I know, Mr. Director, you have a lot on your plate with regards to the work that you do, and I certainly appreciate the efforts that is being done by the employees, because you're an agency that does not have enough resources. I understand that. But we just have to make sure that what resources are being provided by the people are being used and intended for
Sure.
them and
Of
not
course.
anything else.
Of course.
With that, I appreciate you responding to my comments.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you. Senator Nelson, Oversight, do you have any questions for
Oversight.
your agency?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director Arriola and Deputy Director Ibanez for your presentation and testimony today. You know, during the budget hearings, it's natural for us to address some of the concerns that are outside in the community, especially as far as the operations within that specific agency. So several years ago, and this has been an ongoing discussion amongst us, is the underground quarries. Has there been any identification? I saw. I think my question has been answered then. You know,
Good point.
have we been addressing these underground quarries? Have we been taking a look at their permits and correcting their permits? Because we see that some of the permits on face value show that it's just going to be grading and clearing. And so they are authorized for grading and clearing. And however, within that same permit, you see that they are also removing the coral or whatever it is, and they
Limestone.
are moving it to another construction site. So that would give it the categorization of a quarry. And so have we addressed these types of practices within DPW? And this was before your time also, Director. And also, have we addressed the underground quarries? Because this is really important, especially in our natural resources, and especially many of our quarries are in the northern part of our island, right above our aquifer.
Right. So yes, ma'am, we have. We've been quite a bit more diligent since this issue came to the forefront about 2.5, if not, I think it was pre-COVID when it came up. I think there were 3, if not 4 complaints that came across my desk. I think 1 or 2 actually came from constituents that went through your office. So our inspectors are out there. They're more diligent. I believe we shut down 1, if not 2, because they didn't have the required permit. And so, you know, and you're correct. I think a lot of these companies just think it's just a matter of digging as much as they want and taking as much as they want.
Right.
But there are real regulations and standards that aren't even, they're not local. This belongs to MSHA. And MSHA regulates any type of mining, any type of quarry, any
Right.
type of landfill, actually, also. So, you know, we have to be real diligent when it comes to inspecting them and making sure they run correctly. So, no, we are on it as much as we can. And I think the key is, though, like you said, some folks come in for a clearing and grading permit, and once we give it to them, we just say, okay, follow them in about 2 or 3 weeks, and go out there and just make sure it's really just a clearing and grading, as opposed to walking out there 3 months later and we have a big hole, or the mountain is gone.
Right. Yes, and so what is the process? If I wanted to start a quarry, what is the permitting process that, you know, an individual would have to undergo?
I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you right now, it's a more intense process than just clearing and grading.
Would they have to go through the Guam Land Use Commission, give a notice?
I believe so.
Public notice?
Right.
Yes, okay.
It's very intense. This is not just your standard, you know, milling and paving. This is not your standard clearing and grading.
Right.
I believe you have to go through GLUC
That's
for
correct.
approval.
So, and that's the challenge here, is that these permits, they're doing clearing and grading, and then they're removing the coral.
They're actually doing mining.
Yes, exactly.
That's the term, mining.
Right, they're mining. So, and if they didn't go through through a public notice, if they didn't go to the Guam Land Use Commission, they should not be in operation. Those should be grounds to terminate
stop
their
work order.
operation right away. And of course, with the working with EPA to give a NOV and also fines and fees.
Correct.
Okay, very good. I just want to make sure that we're addressing those things.
Yes, ma'am.
The other question I have is, there is an intersection on Machechi Road that intersects with Route 15. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Machechi Road and Route 15.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So
Yes.
you're going up Laddie Heights Hill.
Yes.
Okay. So we have bus stops on both sides of the road, and now that we're going back into school face to face, and we see that there's a continued hazard there, a huge risk, because the children, in order to get to their bus stop, they have to cross the street. And many times the drivers in that area, because they're coming from back road, right down and going down to Back Gate Anderson, in that direction, heading north, they're going over 50 miles per hour. And this is in the early morning. And so we've been tracking this situation for about 4 years. And every year we ask DPW if they can look into putting a traffic light there. And so we've worked with your office. They've done studies. They have validated that the traffic, they could put some, pedestrian crosswalks there and some stop signs and so forth and so on to protect the children. And so I was just wondering, are you tracking any of this, or
Yes, ma'am.
are you planning to install these
Actually,
type of
that intersection there
mitigations?
is up for it's called a traffic safety improvement.
Okay.
That is actually, the traffic study didn't warrant a traffic signal.
Right.
But that will that will have, I think, a few medians, and it will become a four-way stop with, I think, some, it's called a pork chop lane.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's for certain, to keep the traffic flowing coming out of, not Route 15, but
Machechi Road.
Right. But
Okay.
there's going to be a traffic safety enhancement in that intersection.
Will this be completed before the beginning of the school year? Because these are elementary kids also that are crossing the road, right? And
If
so-
I remember that, I think the task order has already been out for that.
Oh, that's good to
It's
hear.
been awarded. The IDIQ has been awarded to a company that does that. And I believe the task, there's 2 areas along Route 15 that will have a traffic safety enhancement.
Okay,
upgrade.
that's good. So, and you also mentioned, at the height of the pandemic, we were talking about automating the entire government of Guam. And in the previous hearing that we've had, there has been concerns about the process of permitting taking too long, I guess in the most simplest
Yes, ma'am.
terms, right? And so I noticed in your testimony, you stated that the automation system for DPW has been put to a pause. Is there an anticipated deadline when this pause will be corrected? And what is the funding source for this automated system?
Okay, let me talk about the pause first. We are in the procurement stage right now. A protest has been filed. Therefore, there's an automatic stay. Okay, and I can't talk about that.
Okay.
But there's a stay because there was a protest file. The funding, I believe, is coming from a grant from Bureau of Statistics and Plans, I
BSP,
believe.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then we see the construction of the roads being improved, so great job to the both of you for working that. I don't see any bike lanes.
I knew you were going to ask that. I will have you know, I just reviewed the as we've discussed, right? We've separated Guam into three divisions, if you will, or 3 parts. And the first one we're working on is the central bike lane. I just saw the design plans for that. We've worked with FHWA on that, and they want to see a full design plan because we're talking about, see, initially I thought that we would just go one way around, but bikers want to go the other way around too. So it's not just one side of the road, it's both sides.
right.
So they highly encouraged us to do the design. I just saw a draft design. It's at about 70%. And once we get that out, we'll put that out for bid and get that done. We do have the money for it. Thank you very much for that. But we do have to do the design for it first.
Okay, very good. And, I was hoping that some of the funding from the federal highway funds could be utilized as well to address the roads that are covered by the federal highway funds.
Yeah, and that's why, because of that same route that we talked about, that's why we're doing the marking and striping on Route 4 and Route 8
Okay.
to assist with the bike lanes there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you think we'll see anything by the end of?
By the end of the year, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And I believe that is all I have. Oh, the bus drivers. You mentioned that you had issues of hiring bus drivers.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything
So,
that you're recommending to fix some
We're
of the
putting
challenges?
the call out for more bus drivers. We're every day of the year, we are recruiting for bus drivers. It always stays open at DOA, and so it's just a matter of getting people to apply. And it's almost like a lot of other positions, folks. I don't know if they're just used to not working. The day's going to have to come where the piper has to be paid, and folks, caution to the wind. Folks need to come out there and start working.
Right.
There are a lot of jobs out there.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Thank you, Director, and
Thank you very much, madam.
Deputy Ibanez,
Thank you.
for all your work, and thank you for the staff at DPW.
Thank
the
you. We're very
amazing
proud of
job.
them. They're hard. It's not an easy job. The clear majority of them are out in the hot sun as we
Right.
speak.
Yeah, and I
it's
see
a hard job.
a lot of projects that DPW is doing and forward progress, so I applaud you for that. So thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. I think in reference to the bus drivers you need, I think the people of Guam need to understand that as tourism is supposed to be spiking, a lot of them are bus drivers out there for the tour buses, so that's your competition. Some of them have been there and they don't want to leave. The loyalty.
Right.
It's all about loyalty to the
Right.
companies they work for. Then maybe, hopefully one day they'll say, you know what, I got to go across the street, go to DPW.
Could be.
Hopefully that works soon. On the issue of, we talked about earlier, I asked about the guardrails, and you may have some problems getting funding, right, from the folks that insurance don't cover it. But I think maybe another route you might want to consider is reaching out to the AG's office and saying, you know what, I'm making a government claim. You, Attorney General, go after those people that need to pay it. And let's get these rails fixed, because you can't be absorbing it out of your budget. That's not
Correct.
fair. And the people of Guam want to know, why isn't those rails fixed? And if that will work, then that's one route. On another one, my colleague mentioned about the bus stops. What kind of bothers me is that you've got buses stopping on the right side, heading south or north, but it closes all 5 or 6 lanes, and there's only one side. The kids are getting off. We gotta work something out where if you're going down Harmon Loop Road and you're picking up kids you're heading south and you're picking kids on the right, the left lane heading north needs to keep going. Because there's something's got to work out, because if you're only picking up kids on one side of the road, they shouldn't be allowed across the street. There's no homes at the soccer field. Let me put it that way. On Harmon Loop Road, there's only homes on the right side. And I'm just trying to figure out, because everybody stops, and then on many occasions, there's no mechanism to attract their attention. Maybe wherever there's a bus stop, there needs to be a flashing light somewhere saying, there's a bus stop. When it triggers,
Slow down.
it flashes
stop.
down, everybody can slow down, because, like my colleague mentioned, the speed limit is 35, but really, everybody's doing faster. Maybe that's something DPW needs to work with GPD.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to just take a look at the speed limit too, because there are some parts on this island that, I don't know why we're doing 35 when we could be doing a lot more. And as you repair all the roads are safer.
I've said that all the time, Senator. The more roads we pave, the faster the speeds are gonna go, and that's a fact of life.
Yes.
That's just the way it's gonna be. One of our federal traffic engineers did suggest last year that we need to up some of the speed limits. I'm very cautious about that because, you know, this is just my personal opinion. I think we have some of the worst drivers in the world on Guam. We just do. I hope the governor never appoints me to revenue and tax because I will not give anybody a driver's license. Okay, there, I said it.
But, you know, as everybody, all my colleagues would think about is that we're going through your budget. At the end of the day, you're going to get a lump sum. You determine where it's best. You're giving the projection of exactly where you prefer it to be spent. But at the end of the day, when you sit down and you look at what funding you have, you're gonna put it where it needs to go. And sure, we can complain that we may have disagreements of where you should spend federal money for roads. When you need to fix a road and you got the funding, you get it fixed. Because that's what the people of Guam expect from you. They don't expect any, what's that?
I get it fixed. I don't care where the money comes from. If I have money and we can get pavement, we're laying pavement down.
Yes, and I thank you. And with that, the committee will conclude this budget hearing with the Department of Public Works. The committee will continue to receive testimony. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. and Agustin at gmail.com or to my office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, 761 South Marine Corps Drive. Suzu's Mas for attendance today, Mr. Ariola and Ms. Banis, and participating in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. This budget hearing on Bill 276-36 COR relative to the Department of Public Works is duly heard and is now adjourned. It is 10:55. Yes, please take care. Be safe.